Okay, how are we doing? Are we live? It's a little strange. Let's check that. Let's check that. Ah, no, it's all good. Okay. Cool, cool. Um, let's grab that. Publish. And let's go here. Okay, 9,600 people. Let's go. How you doing, guys? When will we be getting our results from A2? Well, after you've done A3, because that basically is how you get your results from A2. They are more or less what your results are. So it'll take a while. It'll take at least 3 weeks, but it might take a little bit more. We're going to talk about that today. So the timing's a little bit awkward with the break. Alright, looks like people are starting to join. All good. I'm up a little early today because I didn't have to run from a class. Hey Amber, how you doing? I'm going okay. I'm going okay. I did a lot of sleeping and trying to recover over the last 5 or 6 days. How do you submit your milestone report? Submit it in your Discord channel. Go into your Discord. We'll talk about this in a second as well. But go into your Discord channel. Make sure you post it. But when you post your milestones, make sure you post a picture of your milestone sheet from last week so that your tutor actually knows what you said you were going to do. Your completed milestone and your new milestone that you're setting yourself for next week, and put them all together to make your tutor's life as easy as possible. Because they are not going to spend 20 minutes trawling up and down through your chat trying to find it. So put it all together. Maybe pin it is probably a useful thing to do as well, so they can find it easily. Get it all together and tag them once. It's even better, again, if you can coordinate with your teammates and everybody in the team can post them at the same time. That's just going to make your marker's life as easy as possible. And you always want to do that. Anytime you have the opportunity to make your marker like you, take it. Because they're far more likely to give you higher marks if it's easier for them to do the thing that they need to do. Oh, Lane, that sucks. I haven't had to do 5 a.m. starts for quite a while, but yeah, that's a long day. Hope you're doing alright. Black powder testing was okay. We learned a lot, which was good, and that was the point. The point of getting out was to try some stuff, try some prototyping things out, and see if they would work or not. The procedures that were in place were good. There was a little bit of uh, jamming that happened that now we know about and now we can fix. What's coming up, actually, your next lecture that I'm going to release tomorrow talks about prototyping and why we prototype and why we test early. And we talk a lot about our unknown unknowns in this. The things that are going to go wrong in production that you would never think of. Never ever in a million years would you think of. But as soon as you try it, it becomes really obvious. So we found a few of those things, which was good. So now we're working through them. It's really good. I'm really happy with where they're up to. What do you do if you can't finish your milestone because you're waiting on a teammate for a dependency? Good question. So one of the things that I would encourage you all to do is set a team meeting. So every week, you guys should meet as a team independently to your tutorial. So I would do it like 2 days before your tutorial. And I would have a rule in and amongst our team that we'll all complete our milestones by that point. To buy that little bit of buffer space. Maybe it's 24 hours before your tutorial. To buy that buffer space in case something goes wrong with one person. And then you need it. You can you have a few options. I hope that you filled out that you were dependent on your team member, and if you did that, see if you can think of another contribution you could make to your team between now and your delivery date, which I know might be hard, but normally that's what I would do. And I would try and do that. And that way you can kind of say, hey, I didn't do what I was supposed to. It's not my fault, but I did still attempt to contribute. I didn't just sit there and twiddle my thumbs for an entire week. Because if you twiddled your thumbs for an entire week, I can't help you. I can't reward you for that. But if you've tried something, and then we can say it's not your fault and you had to go, then we can give you something. Any format for the assessment 3? You should dictate your own format within your assessment 3, any format. We'll talk about assessment 3 in a couple of minutes. We're going to spend a bit of time on it today. If we're a Friday class, do we submit them physically to the tutor? You submit them physically to the tutor. The Friday class, it's a little bit easier for you because you don't have to submit your milestones digitally. You had the crappy week last week where you had to set your milestones digitally. This week, no, you show up and you kind of plonk them on the table as soon as you get in the room, and then the tutor will mark them off for you. Hi. You should come join the rocketry team at the end of this semester. You should consider coming and having a chat to the rocketry team at the end of this semester then, Samuel. That would be quite interesting. Let me know. When semester's over, we don't want to distract you with this during your first sem, but at the end of semester 1, by the way, at the end of semester 1, if any of you want to have a look at joining new teams, the people who make rockets, which is what Samuel and I have been talking about, make rockets that can go 10,000 feet in the air, which is just wildly cool. And I'm not just talking the arrows here. I'm talking mechs, arrows, electricals, chem-eng, stuff like that. Anybody who wants to be part of it, come talk to me and I'll tell you how to sign up at the end of this semester. There's rocketry team, there's the race car team, there's the marine team that does all sorts of autonomy, which is super cool. And this year we're also going to launch new brewing, which is going to be awesome. I'm super excited about that. So if building real world solutions to problems is something you want to do as an engineer, we can absolutely do that. Come and talk to me at the end of semester. And Samuel, yeah, I'd be interested in having a chat. When's the second milestone sheet due? So normally your milestones will be due in your workshop. This week's, in your tutorial, sorry, my terminology is a bit out. In your tutorial is normally when your milestones are due. This week that was a little bit tricky because some people had a tutorial in a public holiday. So, in the interest of not disadvantaging them and then being able to send clear messaging to kind of everybody, if you had a class between Monday of this week, your ENGG1500 tutorial was scheduled anywhere from Monday to Thursday. They're due at midnight tonight. Okay? And you need to, as I've said before, and I'm sure I'll say many times today, you need to post your own milestone sheet so your tutor knows what you said you'd do. Post your deliverable and post your next milestone for next time. And that following milestone you'll deliver at the start of your tutorial whenever your next tutorial is scheduled. And if you're a Friday class, then it's tomorrow. You'll deliver it at the start of that. Glad you're starting to like Thunkable. Yes, the learning curve is there. It's a thing. Glad you're enjoying some of this stuff, David. For my assessment 2 submission, some of the figure references had been replaced with error reference source not found. Yeah, that's a thing. I can talk about that as well when some more people get here, because there's a trick to stopping that. Yeah, okay, so what you did, I wonder if I can... Hey, Jed, send me a DM right now with your report in it. I'll try and show everybody, if you're happy, you've obviously been identified now. You don't have to if you don't want to. If you want to send it to me, send it to me. That's a common mistake, and I might see if I can show everybody how to fix it. It's not going to help everybody for assessment 2 at this stage, but it'll help you for your major report. We just have to post it. I guess we're talking about assessment 4 here. Your milestones for this week. We just have to post it in our Discord team channel and add our tutor. Yeah, provided that's what your tutor has kind of said to do. Your tutor might have given you other instructions and said they want something specific, and if they have, obviously what they've said is more important. But if they haven't said anything, yes, do that. Yeah, so this error, the error reference not found thing, is a thing that happens in Word when you put a cross-reference in, and then you say go back and delete the original figure that it was referencing. And it gets confused, and it doesn't know what to do. It can happen, it happens mostly with figure captions, but it can happen with in-text citations and stuff like that as well. There's a few the issue is, it'll sit there as text and it'll be totally fine in that Word document. And it's not until that Word document tries to export it and put a hyperlink in it that it messes up and it throws the error, which is super annoying because you can't see the problem until it's too late most of the time. It's one of the reasons it happens to a lot of people when they go to print. That's the most common thing, but it happens when you upload to Canvas as well. So what Canvas does, by the way, in the background, many of you will have noticed that Canvas fucks your formatting up. What happens when you upload a document to Canvas is it saves it as a Word document. Well, it keeps it as the original Word document, which is good, but then it converts it into HTML. And it has to do, it's super annoying, but it has to do this because that's how it then presents it in a browser. The problem is, if the version of HTML and the version of Word are not the same, which they never are because Canvas is a million years old, it ruins some of the formatting. This can also happen when you export it as a PDF. And when you download from Canvas, if you download it as a PDF, it will come down with wrong formatting because it internally converts it to HTML. So that is why a whole bunch of you got your formatting messed up when you uploaded to Canvas, by the way, just out of, and I know it's super duper annoying. I'm going to get that off there. I'm going to delete that. Okay, So this is a document that's pretty nicely laid out. Well done. Not bad, not bad, not bad. There's some nice things in here. Yeah, you probably should have captioned your table, but that's okay. Your figure caption should have gone below and not above. But here it is. Here's what we're looking for. So this person has done the right thing, and they've gone and referenced figure 2, which is exactly what they should have done. They're talking about, I'm guessing, this figure here. You did your captions the hard way, man. You just right-click, insert caption. Figure, it should go below, and you just type your caption in. And it, bam, puts captions in for you. Obviously, I've got my word in dark mode right now, which is why this looks super duper weird. I probably should have stated that. Yeah, my word is in dark mode, and it looks really weird. Now, there's a whole bunch of these cross-references in here, which is perfect. It's exactly what you should do. But if you were to say delete this figure and then re-import it, this cross-reference will break, but it won't tell you that. So it still says figure 2, but figure 2 doesn't exist in this document anymore. So if you export this and we make it into a PDF, yeah, sure. I know it's 5 parts. We'll start in a second, everybody, but I figured this would be worth people knowing. Somewhere in here, here they are. So that wasn't even the one I put in. I think this is the one I made. It gets confused. So what do you do? And there's a whole heap of them in here, which we're probably referencing figure 2 or an issue that this person had. So what do you do? The hack is to do exactly this. Turn your Word document into a PDF because it will break so many things. PDFs break stuff all the time. So all of these things have broken. Look, there's another one. And all I do is I just go Control F, error. And if I've used the word error a whole bunch of times, error exclamation mark. It's error exclamation mark, isn't it? I mean, in this case, we can just search for error. It'll be fine. And we go through and we find each one of these. We cross-reference our document. Just under our table, there's one. Where's our table? Here it is. Oh, this one's actually appeared in there. And we can come and we can fix this. Now, there's 2 ways of fixing it. You can delete this, and you got to be super duper careful when you delete it. So see this, how it's figure 1 here, and it's highlighting figure 1? You got to get all of it. If you get not all of it, you can actually leave that space right there is still a cross-reference. Just the space. That's it. It's just a space, but it's still a cross-reference, and it will still throw the error. So you've got to make sure you get all of it. And then you can just go and write it in manually, which sounds super duper dumb, but this will never break. You could come and you could redo your cross-reference correctly, which is like, okay, it's the right thing to do, is redo it correctly. But if you're having these issues and you are pulling your hair out trying to fix them, don't fix them. Brute force them. This said figure 1. Hey, just write it manually, and now this can't break again. So that's the hack. I think I might make that into a short video because it gets a lot of people. Cool. I'm going to quickly skim chat, and then I'm going to start. I'm aware it's a couple minutes past 5. And apparently I'm lagging. Hold on, let me check my stream quality. Please just... Okay. Yeah, I'm having a little bit of issue on my end here, I think. I think it's me. Let me check to make sure that, yeah, I don't have anything downloading. Yeah. All right. Sorry about that. I think this is now repaired on my end. I'm at least green, so hopefully I'm not buffering anymore. I don't think what I was doing was particularly nice for my internet connection for a minute there. Yeah. How important is cross-referencing if it breaks? So cross-referencing is super duper important. And you should always do it correctly, and you should get in the habit of doing it correctly, because if you don't and you try and make a big document and you try and do all the manual cross-referencing, it will ruin your life. You will hate it with a passion. So you should do them correctly and you should learn how to fix them correctly. But if it's in 2 hours before submission deadline and you are pulling your hair out over it, brute forcing them manually is a really nice thing to have up your sleeve. I'm gonna jump in, guys. I understand that there are some questions in the chat, and I'm gonna try and circle back to them at the end. It is after 5 past, it's 10 past, and I always like to try and start on time. So sorry we got a little distracted at the start there. Wanted to wrap a few things up around assessment 2. Well, really one thing is it's done. It's done. Well done. You got through your first report. Yes, you may have gotten through it a bit bloodied and scarred, but that's how your first report always is. There's heaps of unknown unknowns, things go wrong, whatever. There's a reason it's only worth 10%. You probably spent more than 10% worth of time on it, but it's a learning experience, right? And a whole bunch of things go wrong and stuff like that. And the point is, that's okay. You weren't meant to be perfect this time. You were meant to learn a lot. So I hope your opinion of assessment 2 is, I learned a lot doing that, and now next time I come into doing a report, I'm going to be better prepared for it. Remember, your next report, your final report, is worth much, much more than this one is, and it's going to be correspondingly bigger. So this one's meant to be a learning experience, such that you can kick ass in the future, basically. So I hope you got that. I hope you're not too bloodied and scarred. I hope you got some sleep over the long weekend. I did see that there were some of you who were up rather late. Is there anything that you think is worth flagging for the group? Did anybody learn anything that they think others would benefit from having spoken about? We just spoke about the whole the error reference not found thing. That's absolutely an issue. It gets loads of people, but it's a very hard one to explain until it's happened to you. So yeah, if there's anything that you think, oh yeah, the Canvas submission is a thing, right? I told you guys, I said, don't leave it to the last minute. Canvas is going to struggle, but that's one of those things that you can't tell people that. You have to have experienced the absolute fuckery that is Canvas. Yep. Canvas is like that. To be fair, Blackboard previously wasn't better. We used to use Blackboard, which is different LMS to Canvas. It wasn't better. They're about the same. So yeah, a couple people resubmitted like super duper late at like 11:30 and it didn't work, and it's like, I don't know what I can do for you in this case. Google Classroom probably is better. Yeah, and so this is the thing, right? Gabriel here. I probably screwed up in every possible way. Okay, that's fine, right? But I shall learn from my mistakes and be better next time is the whole goal. If you tanked it, if you totally tanked it, don't worry about it. You're not going to fail the course because you tanked a single 10% assignment. You'll be fine. And what we want is for you to do better, not just next time in ENGG1500, but better in your entire university career as a result. Trying to fit figures in nicely and not leave empty space. Yeah, we call this pagination. Trying to lay the things out on the page nicely is a lot harder than you'd think. One of the reasons I rant so much about how much I love multi-part figures is they're such an efficient use of space by comparison to not using multi-part figures. The delete and re-upload is way better than the other system. It's way better. So there is 2 ways of submitting documents to Canvas. Well, there's 3. There's you only get 1 submission and that's it. There's the delete and re-upload, which is what this one has, which is actually way, way better than the alternative, which is you can upload several documents. The reason it's way better than the alternative, and I know you guys had a pretty miserable time with the delete and re-upload, but what would happen when you could upload multiple documents is if I download them, I only get the last one you uploaded. And hundreds of people well, not hundreds, about 100 people would end up getting 0 in their assignment because they'd upload a document, their report correctly, and then they'd upload just the title page or just a university cover page after the fact, and that would be the only part of their submission that would get marked, and they'd get 0, and it was a nightmare. Yes, you guys had a pretty nightmarish time with the delete and re-upload. I'm not disagreeing with you there. It's bad all around. At this point, hard copies would have been worth it. I agree with that. People hated me because I used to make them do hard copies. Students got really pissed with the safety net, which is there's no upload issues if there's a physical hard copy in my hand, right? Cool. Rereading it the next day is bad. Yeah, don't do that. All right, so I hope you guys learnt a lot. We're going to move into assessment 3 from this point onwards. So, well, not from this. In a minute, we're going to talk about assessment 3. There's a couple things I want to tick off first, but we're going to spend some decent amount of time on the assessment 3 for the back end of this stream, 15, 20 minutes away. What I want to give you now is the timeline for kind of the rest of semester in ENGG1500. We did this a couple weeks ago. I'll probably periodically do it for you. So as of tomorrow, and I know the last whole 7 days has been an absolute mess of cancelled classes. Well, it hasn't been an absolute mess. It's been cancelled classes, but well, cancelled face-to-face classes at least. But as of tomorrow, all classes are running tomorrow. All ENGG1500 classes are running tomorrow. So if you have a tute tomorrow, go to your tute, be on time, hand your milestone in. Next week, week 7, is a completely normal week, okay? We will fully return to normality. You'll all go to your tutorials. You'll all hand your milestones in. You'll be prepared to hand your milestones in at the start of your tutorial, so don't be late. Go to your tutorials, stock standard. This is normal. You've been doing that for the first 5 weeks of semester. Work on your projects. Then the week after that is the mid-semester break, because we needed another thing to mess with our routine, but that's all right. After next week, you're going to start your mid-semester break. 2 weeks you get for your mid-sem break. And then you'll come back after that. So there'll be no face-to-face classes. There will be no live streams. There will be nothing. I will upload probably 2 lectures for you to watch over the mid-semester break. And there's a reason for that. It's basically because we'll be done with lecture content after the mid-semester break. That's the goal anyway. So that's coming. What you should do with your mid-semester break, you should catch up. If you have fallen behind, which many of you probably are feeling a bit behind, maybe you're feeling behind in ENGG1500 because you had the assignment and stuff like that. Maybe you're feeling behind in a different course. Use this as an opportunity to catch up or to get ahead. Use it as a chance to push forward with your projects, which is actually what I would recommend you do. You meet up with your team once or twice through the break, spend half a day and really smash out a good chunk of your project so that you don't have such a sprint to the finish. But you should also take some time to break. You should take some time to breathe, reset yourself so that you can come back and smash out the last 5 or 6 weeks of semester. I know many of you will spend time in the break working, and so be it. I used to do that all of the time. I would stack heaps of work in there. That's okay. That's a totally reasonable thing to do. Give yourself at least a little bit of time to breathe, to recuperate. This is a marathon as well as a sprint. People say it's not a sprint. It's definitely a sprint. I know a lot of you were sprinting to get your assessment 2 in. But it is also a marathon. So make sure you take a little bit of a break here. Reset yourself, have some fun, do whatever it is you do to relax so that you can come back and work on your project. So when you come back, you're going to do weeks 8, 9, 10, and 11. You're going to get 4 tutorials to finish your project. And you want to test your project in week 11 because we will be testing your projects in week 12. So week 12 is demo week. It's the final week of classes. You'll come in, you'll test your projects. Well, we'll test all of your projects together as a collaborative thing. It'll be awesome. Demo week is amazing. It's like the highlight week of my entire year. Demo week is the best week. And then you'll have until Friday of week 13 to finish off your final report, which you'll want to start before that point. It's not a thing you need to worry about right now. It's a thing we're going to start talking about after the break, okay? So that's the timeline between now and kind of the end of ENGG1500. You'll have a peer review thing to do after the final report as well, but it won't be very hard. So, yeah. Are there any questions on that timeline? Does that confuse anybody? Does anybody have any questions about that? You guys look okay. Sweet. I understand that ENGG1500 is a little bit of a mess and there's a lot of stuff going on, so I want to take the time to make sure you can sort of see what your weeks look like. No final exam, so I haven't put on your final thing here. I'll chuck it on in the interest of completeness. I don't want you guys to worry about this right now, but just in case somebody doesn't, final peer review. This is a little bit confusing. It's probably worth explaining. So there is a thing. So you will finish your final report, and then you guys will peer review each other's report. It'll be a process exactly like A2, A3 will be A6, A7. You don't have to worry about it now. This thing, this final peer review, is an assignment that you'll have 2 weeks to do. It will be called an exam in your timetable, in your course outline. Not because it is an exam, but because it's an assignment. It is an assignment. It's just I got to cheat and I got to move the due date back 2 weeks by calling it a school exam. It's not. It's just a way of cheating and giving you an extra 2 weeks to complete it, so you're not as busy at the end of semester. No real exam, no formal exam in ENGG1500. Okay? Just a final assignment to do that is called an exam. Cool. All right, assessment 4. I understand that the logistics of this is your milestone assessment. Your milestone assessment has been a little bit messy with all the public holidays and stuff like that. It gets easier, trust me. The first week of milestones is always the hardest week, and this year it was the hardest week, plus it was the week with all the public holidays, so it was like the hardest week squared. It's going to get heaps easier for you moving forward. It is a reality that you will, as a professional engineer, have to do things like deliver online milestones, like most of you did this week. You delivered online milestones. They're difficult, but that's a reality. You should learn how to do that well, and you should learn how to deal with crunch times where you have multiple overlapping things to do all at the same time. These are all realities that I want to prepare you for before you go out into the big bad world, because you will absolutely need to know them. I would have preferred to not have to do that in week 6. That kind of sucked, but that's just how the public holidays happened to fall this year. So thank you for working on it with me. Do take this as this is a real world thing. This is something I need to learn, and if I struggle at it, it's something I need to look at improving through my university, so that when I get out and I be a real engineer and I encounter these problems, I know how to overcome them. But yeah, I get that they kind of sucked. It's going to get way easier. Some things to help make your life easier is when you have your client meetings. So when you come in to present your milestones every week, think of them like you are a professional engineering team meeting the person who pays your bills, the person who hired you. That's what they're supposed to replicate. Obviously, they're a contained version of that, but that's what they're there to replicate. If you treat them like that, you'll find them very useful. So before your engineering consultancy team meets with their client, it would be appropriate for you to have met as a group beforehand. I mentioned this right back at the start. It's a good idea to have a team meeting maybe the day before, 24 hours, 48 hours, something like that, before your tutorial. So you can all catch up, check that all your milestones are done, check if you have any questions, things that you want to ask your tutor, and make sure that you've got a bit of a plan of how you want your very short, sort of 4 or 5 minute milestone meeting to go. Who's talking first? What questions are they asking questions? Are we going to hold all of our questions to the end? How are we going to smash through this thing? If you present yourselves like that to the client, you will get endless help and support as a result. If you walk in as a bit of a mess, it's going to be very hard for them to even mark you all in 5 minutes, and they've all been instructed to get up and walk away from your table after 4 minutes or 5 minutes, depending how many members you have in your team. So plan the meetings. And again, as I said last time, make sure you get your own pound of flesh back out of them. You're allowed to ask questions. They may not answer them on the spot. They might say, we're going to come back to that. But if you've got questions, well thought out questions, or you need help or you need resources, ask for them in those milestone meetings at the end once you've all gotten your marks. Cool. Some advice on actually building your projects, because that's what you want to be doing as of next week. I know this sounds early, but you want to start building next week. And I'm not saying you want to start building your final design, but you want to start prototyping next week. And that's what this week's lecture is going to be all about. So tomorrow I'm going to release the prototyping lecture, which will help you start building. I know your designs aren't finished yet. They're not meant to be finished when you start making prototypes. Prototyping is part of your design phase. So that is being released tomorrow. It's only 45 minutes long or something like that. So it's a nice condensed, shortened lecture. Hopefully it helps you a lot with your projects. So that's coming out tomorrow, and obviously you'll get your admin video as well. And then hopefully that allows you to set some milestones moving forward that are more practical. You really want to get away from research milestones already. And you need to start moving from conceptual design milestones, which many of you would have done this week, which is fine, into detailed design milestones. Things that you can actually physically make and plonk on the table. That's where you want to be getting to in week 7. Or writing those types of milestones in week 7 to deliver in week 8. We've spoken about this a little bit already, but just to remind everybody, if you had a class somewhere between Monday of this week and today, you need to complete your assessment for this week. If you haven't already submitted it, you should have submitted it during your normal tutorial time, but some of those were on public holidays and stuff like that. So that if you haven't done it yet, you have to do it tonight, okay? Make sure that you post your milestone sheet, that's whatever you said you were going to do, that thing, the evidence that you completed that, and what you're going to do next week, ready to be signed off for approval. So you need to post all 3 of those things. Please do your best to coordinate with your team and coordinate yourself so that you can post them all kind of together, and then tag your tutor once, ideally. You just tag them once and everything is there, and they can mark them super quickly and easily. Don't make them trawl through all of your chat crap. And I have no problems with you having heaps of crap chat in your workshop chat, your personal, your team chats. That's obviously their point. That's why they're personal. But in this case, try and pin the messages or something to make it as easy as possible for your marker. Cool. And if you're a Friday class, don't worry, you just show up tomorrow and you present them. I think we've covered that, and I think we've covered this. Oh, I should point out this one as well. If you've done a 2-page report as your milestone, if that was going to be your deliverable, post the report as a docx or whatever. That's fine. And then post some screenshots of the pages so that your marker doesn't have to go through and for 32 people in their class download a whole bunch of reports and then open them all up. They can just see the pictures, the screenshots, to be like, yeah, sweet, I can see all of this. I don't need to read every single word. I can see that it's done. So again, make your marker's life as easy as possible. I'm going to try and be finished. I think I'm going to be finished by about 6:15 tonight. It depends how many questions there are about assessment 3. And I'm going to spend as long as I need to on that, but I'm going to try and finish a little bit early tonight so that you guys have some time to do that, finish that off if you haven't already. Are there any questions about that? Otherwise, we're going to get into talking about assessment 3, the peer review. Post in your Discord channel. Yes, please, unless... post in your Discord channel unless your tutor has given you specific instructions as to why not to do that. Can you make a specific Discord chat for each team for the submissions? No, I can't. Discord servers are limited to 500 channels, and we have like 480 of them already. We can't do that. That's actually why not all teams, not all, what do I call them? Yeah, I just open one of them up. It's why there's only 2 voice channels, because we can't actually fit any more in, because there's so many channels in here already, we can't fit them. What you can do, if you want to contain all of your milestones together, you can make like a master document that everybody uploads their milestone deliverables into every week, and then you just have a link to that one document, and you put it on a Dropbox or a SharePoint or something like that. And I know a lot of people are like using Git and stuff like that, and there's absolutely ways to do that. So yeah, a master document with everything in it is a really, really good idea, both from an organizational standpoint, from a market logistics standpoint, and for data for your report at the end is a really, really good idea. The only thing that I'll say is if you put it on, um, what am I trying to say here, OneDrive or something like that, be very careful that your tutor actually has the correct permissions to view it, because they may not by default. If our evidence is in a collaborative document, can one person send it for the group? Maybe. Maybe. If you've done it really nicely, then probably yes. Just make sure you tell the tutor that. Is referencing required in the milestones? Not explicitly. Like, you don't have to go through and do perfect APA referencing or anything like that. But your milestones should serve a purpose. They're not work for the sake of work. So if you did a review of some literature to come up with a design, and then you meet up with your team and we're like, oh, this is conflicting with my review of literature or something like that. Where did you get your info from? You want to be able to do that. All right. So it could be as simple as just dumping URLs in at the bottom of the page, might be enough, but you should absolutely cite your sources, because that's actually of value to you. It's not for me, it's for you in that case. Can people who upload pictures convert T? Don't only upload pictures, also upload pictures. So if you've got a 2-page document summarizing your research, I want to see the 2-page document titled intelligently and whatever, and then screenshots, both. All right. Simon said email him. That's what I would have expected. So if you're a chemical or renewable, my understanding is Simon almost certainly would prefer emails, because Simon has his emails sorted out masterfully well. So that would be my guess. He would want emails there, and other tutors may have requested them as well. Team isn't. If your team isn't checking Discord, can we submit assessment for and at your tutor? Yeah, you can. Probably try. Just at least send a message to say, so that you can say, hey, I tried. You do not need to check into live streams. You guys are good. All right, I think we're okay. Let's talk about assessment 3. Some of you have made fantastic progress on assessment 3 already, which is really nice, because that's allowed me to check that it works, which is good. Somebody has, I think, finished everything they can do up until this point, so well done to that person. Although I think they might have missed a really important thing, so I hope they're here and they get to see this. But some of you are like 90% of the way through it already, which is fantastic. The goal of assessment 3, and I suppose I should just iterate this in general. Big picture. Let's take a step back. You all just did a report, right? Assessment 2. And it was a little bit chaotic. And by a little bit chaotic, I mean it was totally chaos. It always is. The first time you write a report is always chaos. One of the reasons that it's so difficult to write your first ever report is you are trying to learn a whole bunch of report writing rules and skills at the same time as writing a report. Writing a report is hard. Even if I had to write an equivalent of your assessment 2, that would be hard, because writing is hard. That's if you know all of the skills, writing is hard. But writing was like hard squared for you guys, right? Because it's hard, plus you didn't know any of the rules, so it's hard squared. What the value of assessment 3 now is to get you guys to stop, take a minute, look back at some other reports where your brain doesn't have to focus on creating content. It can just focus on the report writing, rules, and things like that. So this will help reinforce in your brain, oh, this person isn't using the correct font. And by going through and marking somebody and being like, hey, they got their fonts wrong here, 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 and here, that helps it really stick in your brain. And next time you go and write, you will hopefully be able to catch those things yourself in your own writing. So this is why peer review is super duper useful. It's a thing I really believe in. I actually think it's the second best way to get people to learn report writing skills. The first is just get them to write reports, but writing reports takes a long time. So peer reviewing is super duper useful for this. The other thing is it's going to provide all of you with a lot of feedback. And one of the advantages to this is that 5 different people are going to review your report and give you feedback. And if all 5 of them say the same thing, then you got something wrong that is just straight up and down, black and white. You're supposed to use Times New Roman. You use Comic Sans. That's unacceptable. Okay, you made a mistake. All right, that's fine. That happens. It happens to all of us all the time. And that's useful feedback. But the more useful thing it will give you is perspective. This person really hated the way I wrote my scope. But these other 2 people didn't care. They didn't comment on that. They loved the way I wrote my big picture introduction or something like that. So by virtue of getting 5 different opinions, it's going to help you understand that there is diversity in the way in which people think about report writing, and it is good to be able to see different views. Okay? So that's more or less what the big picture overview of assessment 3 is. Your job when you're doing this, when you're going through and you're peer reviewing it, is to provide useful feedback to your peers. Okay? So you need to come in, you need to assess them on several rubrics, which I've got some screenshots of, which are about to pop up in a second, I think. And give them feedback, critique their report on a whole bunch of different criteria. I think there was a tautology in that sentence, but anyway. Your job is to try and provide balanced feedback. I was chatting to somebody in the Discord channel about it, and the words they used, they were like, oh, how formal do we have to be? And we were going back and forth. It's like, oh, use normal people language was their quote. And I was like, yes, that is exactly how you should describe the type of feedback you are given. Give normal human feedback to this particular person. Don't patronize them. Engineers fucking hate being patronized in general. Don't go through and tell them that everything is wonderful if everything isn't wonderful. Don't go and give them 5 out of 5 or 4 out of 5 on all of the things if they're not. We have ways of catching that, and I will give you 0 if you just come through and try and, give everybody 5 out of 5 or whatever, because that's dumb. That's of no value to any of us, right? But also equivalent, because it's useless. It's a waste of everybody's time for you to go through and be patronizing. But also don't be overly critical. Don't come in and go, you missed 1 full stop halfway through your report, you suck, you're a terrible human being, da-da-da-da-da. We don't need that either, because that's not that helpful on the other side, and that causes people to get defensive, and then that's not particularly useful, and I mean, rightfully so. They have a right to get defensive in that case. So try to find that balance. Regardless, that balance is tricky, and you won't have it when you start, and that's fine. Don't freak out about, oh, was I a little too nice or a little too harsh? That's okay. Just don't be overly patronizing and don't be overly critical, and you'll be fine. Just give them some normal human feedback. Here we go. This is what I was trying to get to. This is, where's my mouse? All right, I have lost my mouse. I don't know what's going on. Doesn't matter. I'll deal without it. This is more or less what you're getting. So this is a screenshot from what I see when I look at how you've been giving feedback. This isn't, I think, exactly how it looks for you. But if you go through and you mark somebody, and this is somebody who's already gone through and marked, and I use that term extremely loosely, who's gone through and reviewed and provided feedback to one of their peers. Actually, I do want my mouse now that I think of it. Why? How have I lost it? This is a little problematic for me because I can't point out the things that I want to point out now. How have I lost my mouse? All right, whatever. So what they've done, and I know that the text here might be a little bit difficult for you to read, and I'm going to have to try and struggle here. What they've done is they've come through and they've rated each of the reports they were given. So there's 5 reports here that you can see they've rated, and then there's a whole bunch of the criteria on which they rated them. So if you look at kind of the top row, it's the ENGG1500 title page. Was this included or not? And you can see everybody included it, which is expected. I really hope everybody included it, and so everybody got, maximum points on that particular one. The big picture overview, you can see somebody there didn't do so great. But what I really like about this person, we're looking at the second row down now. The first person got 5 out of 5. The second, 4 out of 4. Sorry. The second person got 4 out of 4. The third person got like 1 out of 4 here. And I shouldn't say this because you're not actually awarding points here. But that third person didn't do very well. What's good about this particular individual here is they've gone and put a comment in there. So I'm hoping that that comment is a reasonable critique. Hey, you haven't done very well in this section. It's because you didn't include enough background information for me to understand what's going on. Something like that. It's you haven't done well. They know that they haven't done well here. What do they do to improve? What I also really like about what this person has done is if you move over to the next report there, that person's done really well. They've gotten the highest score they could get, but there's a comment there as well. And I'm really hoping, and I have read these comments, but I'm not going to put them up on stream because it'll show me their names. That's why I'm not putting them up. But I'm really hoping that that comment is a compliment. It's that person going, hey, you've done a really great job of this. Well done. And then you can go down and you can see a whole bunch of the times where this person has put comments in. So that's really, really good. That's kind of what we want to see. So this is what I see when I go and investigate each one of you of what you've done for assessment 3. So I kind of see this big picture overview. I can also see this, I thought you'd be interested, in that this is everybody, at least everybody who's done it so far. So only like 50 people have completed this so far, which is fine. So here is how people are doing. Most people are doing super duper well on the title page front. Not as well on the client description front. So these are the types of things you're rating people on. Yeah, so that's basically the process. You go through, you use the 2 rubrics that I've given you to provide feedback, plus you provide a comment, a short answer, 1 to 200 words on how well each of them address the target audience, and then you rank them, which I'm going to get to in a second. After this has all happened, so after this first part of assessment 3 is due, you've gone through, you've ranked everybody. What will then open up is a new part of assessment 3. It comes in a couple of parts, where you will all then rate your own reviewers. So you will see everybody's feedback that they've given you, and you'll be able to come in and be like, yeah, that reviewer was awesome. They weren't patronizing. They weren't overly critical. They found some things I did badly, and they called me out on them. They found some things I did well, and they gave me a little bit of, hey, this wasn't terrible, well done. So you will all then rate your own reviewers on how helpful they've been. Not how much they praised you, but how helpful they were for you becoming a better reviewer, a better writer, sorry. So that'll be the next part of the assessment. To help you out here, you should give comments as often as possible. If you're giving full, as good as possible, you probably should have a compliment to give that person. If you're smashing somebody really badly, you probably should have a critique that you tell that person. You don't have to put in a comment for absolutely everyone at all. I'm not asking you to write, because that ends up being like 125 comments or something crazy like that. You don't have to write that many. But if you've given a whole bunch of or like max marks to somebody, throw in, hey, you did a really good job of this. If you're docking a whole bunch of things down, maybe, hey, this is kind of the biggest thing that's working against you right now for you to improve, or the easiest thing that you could improve. Cool. Okay. I haven't gotten this question too much yet, but I'm predicting it's coming. Do I fill out the rubric if somebody, for example, just hasn't done a section at all? Or if I get a report and it's like 1 page long, or it's just the title page, which will happen. Some of you will get a report and it will just be a title page because this happens every year. What do you do in that case? You fill the rubric out in full. Part of your marks are coming from literally just having ticked every single one of the boxes in the rubric. So don't hurt yourself by not doing that, okay? So if you've got a non-attempt report, you should still fill the rubric out for it. You don't have to rank it, which is what we're about to talk about now, but you do need to fill the rubric out for everybody. Okay, so there's some stuff about the due date. I'm going to be moving the due date for assessment 2, by the way, officially in a minute, because I'm going to make it be due 2 weeks after you guys got it. This is already in the process. The reason it's due when it is, though, and this is a little bit tricky, we have to be a little bit careful about this. My mouse is totally fucked. All right, this is a problem. How am I going to fix this? Because I need this to do the next part. All right, so sorry about this, guys. I'm going to just message my partner and ask her, can you... Oh, do I have my spare mouse in here? No. Me. Can you bring me my mouse and mouse pad? Let's hope she sees that and she can help me out here. Sorry about this, guys. So I'm going to move the assessment due date. It's going to be due exactly 2 weeks after assessment 2 was due. The reason I haven't officially done this is I'm not allowed to officially move the due date. So in the same way that I wasn't allowed to officially move your last due date, I'm not allowed to officially move this one. So don't tell anyone. And your due date will suddenly magically become Tuesday 2 weeks after it was due. Just don't tell anyone, okay? Okay. Sweet. So, do we see our reviews straight after they finish? No, you won't see your reviews for 2 weeks, okay? So what will happen is everybody will put all of their reviews in, and then that submission date will pass, and then all of your reviews will become available, and you will read all of them, and then you will rank all of your reviewers, and then there'll be another due date for that. So assessment 3 happens in 2 stages. Realistically, assessments 2 and 3 happen in 3 stages, but yeah, that's why it's one assessment portal, by the way. It's all in the same spot, because it's actually technically one assessment in multiple parts. Well, Canvas sort of views it as one assessment in multiple parts, which is going to cause some fuckery for us later, but I'll deal with that. So officially, when would the new due date be for the assessment? Exactly 2 weeks after assessment 2 was due. So whenever assessment 2 was due, exactly 2 weeks after that. I think you can do the maths from there. Sick. All right, so dragging is back on track. Assessment 2, write the report. Assessment 3, go through the 2 rubrics that I've given you, which were exactly out of the other assessment, and write the short answer to how well did they address the target audience. And then finally, the 4th thing that you need to do is rank them. So there is a Microsoft form you can open up and go in there, and it will ask you to just write the student numbers in of the reports that you read in order to rank them. So you write the best one, you put your own student number in first, I think is how it works. It explains it all in the form, like it's super duper obvious. But you go through and you rank them all, okay? You will get asked in every single time you go to to do a report to go and rank them. It's just the only way I could make the logistics of it work. You only need to fill the form out once. It's the same form every time. It's just how the questions worked out. So yeah, go in when you've done them all and fill this out last. Do the ranking last. Read all the reports first and then do the rankings last. If you get a non-attempt, if you've gotten somebody who has written 2 pages or 5 or 6 pages of hot trash, and I'm not talking, oh, this isn't very good. I'm talking, this is photographs of lab documents copied and pasted in level bad. You don't have to rank it. Okay, you can just omit this as okay. You need to go through and do the rubric stuff for it no matter what. But you don't have to give it a ranking. You can be like, this is a non-attempt. I'm not even going to rank it. And then you'll only rank 4 of your 5 or 3 of your 5 if you get really unlucky and you get 2 of these. If you're not sure, if you've got one that you're like, I'm not sure if this is a non-attempt or not, then you can DM me or email me and be like, hey, Dylan, I've got this one. Could you just check it really quickly and let me know whether you think this is worth ranking or not? And I'll weigh in on that for you. I think it will be really clear. I don't think there should be any ambiguity. Normally when you see one of these, it's extremely clear. So if there is ambiguity, then I'm not talking about it probably. It's probably fine for you to rank, but if you're like, this is not worth it, then you don't have to rank it. And then that will wipe them from one of like the tiers of how they get marks. Oh no, I can't. There we go. What? All right. So how will you get your grades for assessment 3? Assessment 3 is worth 10%. So the way that this works out is, the 10% is broken up into basically 4 marks for doing the thing. 4 marks you get from filling out all the rubrics and answering all the short answer questions and filling out the Microsoft form. If you do all 3 of those things, you will get 40%. There you go, for free. You'll get 40%. In 2 weeks' time, when all of your reviews become available, if you go through and you read all of your reviews, and it will know whether you read them or not. So you go in, you read all of your reviews, and you rate all of your reviewers. That will earn you 20%. You can't do this yet, but it's coming, and you'll be able to do it later. That gets you 20%. So if you just do everything you're supposed to do, and you do it correctly, if you follow all the rules, you are guaranteed 60% in this assessment. It's free. Do what I told you to do, and you will lock in 6 out of 10. The remaining 40% comes from how your peers rate you as a reviewer. So if you've just given everybody full gold stars at all times, then they're going to rank you fairly badly because you didn't help them be better. Or if you're an absolute prick the entire time and you rank everybody down, then you're going to get called out for being a bad reviewer. Again, we're not looking for people to be super critical here. We're looking for you to be a human and give human advice back to other people. The other thing that we will automatically search for is somebody who doesn't fit within a standard deviation, basically. So if Dylan's report went into the pool and it got marked and it was a bit shit, and my first reviewer gave me, a whole bunch in the middle, I ended up with a lot of issues. The second report, a lot of issues. The third reviewer, a lot of issues. The fourth reviewer, a lot of issues. And then the fifth reviewer, gold stars the entire way. We will catch that person because they stand out like a sore thumb in the statistics. And then we can go in and we will moderate this part of the mark as a result of you not providing realistic reviews. I say this not to scare any of you. I only say it to let you know that if you try and trivialize this by giving everybody gold stars the entire time, you're statistically extremely easy to find. If you give human advice back to people, you'll be fine. You'll be fine. And if you're going through and being like, man, I'm giving out so many gold stars, what the hell, I'm worried, put a couple of comments in. tell me why you think this thing deserves a bunch of gold stars. And then when I review it, I'll be like, hey, this person gave out endless gold stars, but they'd clearly read it. They clearly had a reason to doing it. You're all good. No stress. I will review them personally in that case. So that's how you get your marks. Okay, so let me just work through this because I'm almost done, and then I'm going to read chat, and then I'm going to do the last bit. So as I've already said, you're going to get 2 weeks to do it. It'll be 2 weeks after the assessment 2 is due, and then the plan was to give you 1 week to rate your reviewers, but I don't think I can do that. I think I have to give you 3 weeks to rate your reviewers. The problem is 2 weeks, the 16th is in the mid-semester recess. Remember, hold on, let's go all the way back up here. Where's our timeline? Here. The mid-semester break there, the first Tuesday of that is now when your assessment 2 is due. So it's now due in the break, which is why I'm not officially allowed to move it, because you're not allowed to make stuff due in the break. So I should be making it due the Friday before the break. That's what's officially going to be in the course outline and all of that jazz. But if we just stay real quiet, it can be due on Tuesday, the first Tuesday of the break. Buy you all a couple of days for free. I don't feel bad about that. I wanted you to have 2 weeks to do this. We moved the due date for assessment 2 back. I see it as fair to move the due date for assessment 3 back. Fuck policy. I only want you to have 1 week to review your reviewers because it's not supposed to be a long and arduous task. And I just want you to get it done and have it be over and done with, and not lingering over you. The problem is that's then going to be the second week of the break, and I don't feel very comfortable about that. So I think I'm gonna move that due date back again until at least the first Tuesday of the break. But I feel a little uncomfortable about doing that because it's the first Tuesday back, and you've forgotten about it because you haven't had a live stream in 3 weeks. So I'm going to move this due date. I don't quite know when I'm going to put it yet, but it's going to go back quite a long way to try and be in your best interests, okay? Okay. Do I want to do this? Let's finish this. How am I doing for time? 10 to 6. All right. 4 to 6. I understand that there's a lot of chat that I've missed. I'm going to finish this, and then I'm going to go back to chat, okay? Because we're 2 slides away from finished, and I think it's worth finishing here. And then we can set some of you free if you don't have questions, and I can answer chat questions. Okay, I want to now go back. Take you all the way out of the details. Forget all the details right now. Let's do some big picture conceptual. Marking rubrics are garbage, and I hate them. So there is an issue when you give people marking rubrics. Always. This always happens. In that it's extremely hard to create a rubric that captures something that has some independence in how it can be achieved. If I wanted you to all write exactly the same report, word for word, sure, it'd be very easy to make a rubric for that, but what the fuck is the value in you all writing exactly the same report? So I want you to be able to write a report as it makes sense to you, and so I need a rubric that can assess that, and that's an extremely difficult thing to do. You've probably all encountered some bad rubrics in your time, and there's kind of 2 reasons you end up with really bad marking rubrics. They're really specific. They're really, hey, we're going to rate you on where you put full stops and spaces between numbers and units and what font you use, and I'm trying to think what other formatting requirements, whether you've put figure captions in or not. They end up with a rubric like that. And you can get a report that complies with that rubric that is trash. Every word in it is utter shit and it's all wrong, but it conforms to the rubric. So that person does super duper well. And it doesn't make sense. Sometimes it's a good idea to do that if you're trying to teach specific formatting skills, but it's a dangerous way of assessing things. Then there's the opposite problem, which is kind of how you get the rubric, which is like, oh, here, write me about your models and assumptions bit. And we're going to rate it on excellent, good, satisfactory, unsatisfactory. And we're not going to define what those terms look like in any way, shape, or form. which again, you saw me do, right? More good than bad, more bad than good. That was me trying to at least define them a little bit, but they're vague. And now it's really open to interpretation. My definition of good, your definition of good, could be two very, very different things. And so they're very, very weak. Oh, yes. I have a mouse and mouse pad. Let's see if this works. Oh, I don't have a USB port though. Okay, hold on. All right, I'm going to finish this thought, and then I'm going to try and solve this other problem. So, so these are two huge problems with how marking rubrics work. It's one of the reasons I gave you two rubrics to critique people on, because it's very hard to make one rubric that does both of these things. But I wanted to expose you to the fact that in either way, it's very easy to have a very bad report that beats a very good report if the rubric doesn't work, and very few rubrics work well. So much so that a couple of years ago, and ENGG1500 used to look quite different to the way that it looks now, but I took every single marking rubric away from some of the projects, but not all. And we hid the rubrics from some of the students. And those students, on average, did much better than those who had access to the rubrics, which sounds super weird because it's completely contrary to everything you get taught about how you're supposed to write assessments and stuff like that. But without a doubt, students did better when we took their rubrics away. And markers mark more fairly if you take a rubric away from them as well, but it's way, way, way harder to mark without a rubric. So that's why I'm getting you in this assessment to use a rubric, because it structures the feedback, and that is a helpful thing to do. That is undeniably a good way of providing feedback. But I also want you all to hopefully see that it's not always, sometimes it is, but it is not always a fair way of assessing people. So I want you to use the rubrics to the best of your ability, but I also want you to build a little bit of marker empathy and think about, hey, when I write again in the future, how is somebody meant to assess me? What are they feeling? What rubric do they have available to them? Do they have a rubric at all? What type of stuff is in it? And then once you've done some marking, hopefully you will be able to do better as a student in the future. That's kind of my ultimate big brain thing here. It's your first go at it this time. You probably won't see all of the galaxy brain stuff, but that's okay. I want to get you a little bit of experience and expose it. Finally, and I'm pretty sure, yeah, this is my last slide of content, and then I will start reading chat and answering questions. Dylan's favorite thing is Canvas, right? I don't know how these grades are going to look in Canvas when they first go in. And I'm pretty certain what's going to happen is you're going to get one column in Canvas for assessment 2 and 3 combined. I think it's to the best of what I can work out, but it's only going to get the grade from assessment 2. They're only going to get the grade from assessment 3. And I'm going to have to put a manual column in and fill all of your grades out manually for assessment 2. I think is what's going to happen. The point is this. Don't worry about it. It's going to be a little bit messy. I will make it work for you eventually. I might manually end up just hiding the assessment 2 and assessment 3 columns and make Dylan's assessment 2 and assessment 3 columns and copy them across. I'm going to have to do a few things to validate that you get the correct marks for a few of these assessments to make sure they work as intended. What I want you to take away from this is just like I did with the due date problem, right? Where I was like, I'm just gonna move this. I'm gonna do something a little bit hacky. It might all work. It might be beautiful and it might be fine, but you guys have all just experienced Canvas, so put as much faith in it as you want. If it works, fantastic. If it doesn't work, I'll hack it until it does work. And it will be to your benefit. It always will be to your benefit. Like I never move a due date forward, but I will move them backwards, right? I will always, anytime I have to blur a line, I will always blur it in favor of my students. Okay, so don't stress about some ambiguity at this stage. Don't stress if there's some conflicting information, like there might end up in Canvas be 2 grades, 2 columns for a particular assignment. You will always get the one that's got the highest number in it, as long as you earned that number. If it like fills all of the columns with 10 out of 10 for some reason, you might not get that. But if there's like some ambiguity somewhere, I will always do my best to err in your favor, provided you have done the things I have told you to do. So if you followed the rules, if you've done what Dylan said, I will always make sure that this falls out with the best outcome for you. Because if you've done that, that's what I want you to do, right? I want you to do the things that I've told you to do. So if you do that, I'll make sure any ambiguity always falls in your favor. So just don't stress is basically my point at this stage. Okay. Sorry, that was a tad chaotic. There was a couple of weird and wonderful things that happened. I just needed my mouse pad back. All right. I do want to show you this. I do want to show you this. So this is the Microsoft Office form for you to fill out. You put your own student number in, read the instructions up the top, you put your own student number in, and then the best report, then the second best report, then the third best report. If you get to the point where you think somebody has made a non-attempt, this is not a mandatory question, you don't have to answer it. But you only have to fill this form out once, right? You don't have to fill it out every single time. I suggest you wait until the very end, and then you fill this form out then. If you have any questions about that, please let me know. It will let you fill it out more than once. So if you accidentally submit it, you should just be able to submit it again. Okay. I think I have done everything. So, reminder, go post your milestones to Discord if you haven't already before midnight tonight. And yeah, you should be all good. I am going to start reading chat now. Sorry if you've had a question in there. How do we give accurate feedback when I don't necessarily know what I am saying is right? Oh, great question. Excellent question, Olivia. So, how do I do this? I'm not an expert. How do I provide feedback? Couple of things. One, the target audience was you, right? And now I know that this, Olivia, may not be your exact question, but the target audience was another ENGG1500 student. So if you're reading their content and going, I don't know, this is way too confusing for me to understand, then that's badly written, because you should be able to understand it. That should be the point. So if you're confused because it's way too high level, it's way too complex, that in itself is somewhat an answer to your question. The other thing that you can do, if you're really unsure, is use your comments. So put the ranking wherever you put the ranking, wherever you think it belongs, but then put a comment in. And if you're wrong, then and if you're like, you used Times New Roman when you were supposed to use Calibri font, that person's going to know that your feedback was bad, and they will be able to ignore it. So use your comments to your advantage there. If you understand what's going on, it's probably... yes, Uranium, you are correct. Yeah, I dealt with that already. Do we see our review? I dealt with that. You didn't get to see my partner. She snuck in. I don't think you got to see her anyway. Oh, we've addressed this. There's less comments in the chat than I thought. How are we supposed to review the models and assumptions sections for different disciplines? So hopefully, Braden, that I answered that before. So hopefully that makes sense. You should understand it. You're not necessarily expected to be the expert, but if you understand, good. If you're confused as hell, bad. At the end of each review, there is an option to rank the report. Is that separate to the Microsoft form? If you read that, that says, go and fill out the Microsoft form. Specifically, that question says, go click on this link, and it will take you just there. I checked it like an hour ago. If it doesn't, let me know, okay? But, yeah. We address that. Can we start reviewing a paper and then stop and come back later? Yes, you absolutely can. You don't have to do the whole paper in one go, and you don't have to do the whole assignment in one go. They're really nicely. One of the things that this process does beautifully well is it shows me where all of you are up to right now. So I can go in and see. I could if I wanted to, and I won't, but I could go in and see exactly where a Liam with an R is up to, and it'll be like 0% or 2% or 98% of the way through the review process. So you can stop wherever you want. Do we have to provide reasoning as to why we rank? No, and I'm asking you not to. Don't do that. You don't have to provide any reasoning whatsoever. The whole point of not having it be a rubric is if I said, yeah, you need to provide a reason based on this, and this, I've just given you a rubric, and that's exactly the opposite of what we're trying to get to. So your rankings are just best to worst. For A2 in Canvas, when I cross-reference my figures every time the photo appeared multiple times. That's in Canvas. Oh, that's probably just the stupid Canvas API bug. I think you'll be fine. If your document was fine, then you're fine. Don't worry about it. Right at the very start of this stream, I actually explained that. I think it was at the start of this stream. What about reviewing people that named their document wrong? Oh, you're allowed to review somebody who's named their document wrong. It's okay. You can let that factor into your rankings, however much you would like to let that factor into your rankings. I need them to name their document correctly because I can't moderate them if their document isn't named correctly. So I have a script that sorts. There is a button that exists for me which is download all submissions, which I do, and it downloads all of them, and then I sort them by project and by tutorial, and I divvy them up, and that's how I get them to markers or how I select them for moderation, and all these things happen as a direct result of file name, which means that person won't get sorted, they won't get moderated, they won't get whatever. You can allow it to influence you as much as possible. You should still give them feedback. You can make a comment on it, and you can let it factor into your rankings as you wish, but you don't necessarily have to call it a non-attempt because they named it wrong. You're fine. For assessment 3, can we change our marking for reports once completed? For instance, reporting multiple reports from the same discipline and realizing that we should have given a previous... I don't know, Riley. I'd be really interested to find out. This is a great question. So you read one report and you fill out the rubrics, and you do that almost entirely blind, right? You've never marked anything before. You don't know. And then you read another, and maybe you give it quite a few gold stars. And then you read another one and you're like, oh, that's way better. And another one that's way better. And another one that's way better. And you realize your first one, maybe you had some rose-colored glasses on. What do you do? I think the system should let you go back and redo it all the way up into the due date. That is how I wanted it to be set up. Again, I trust Canvas as far as I can throw it right now, but it should let you go back. Personally, I will rarely go back and take marks away from someone unless I've realized that they were just explicitly wrong about something. I'm not personally in the habit of going back and hurting someone before, but I'm absolutely in the habit of going back and being like, wow, I was probably a little bit too harsh on that first person. But yeah, you should absolutely be able to go back and remoderate yourself. Personally, when I'm marking, just so you guys know, if I had to mark 100 reports, I would read 10 of them first without a pen or pencil in my hand. I would just read them. Just read them. So that I could gauge myself before I start to mark the first one. You guys don't have to do that at all. You're not required to do that in any way, shape, or form. But just sharing the secret of how I address that exact thing, Riley. It's a very good question. Should we download the assessments to review them? Oh, absolutely. Yeah, that's a really good point. Actually, Jack, could you ask that question in the Discord? Just literally what you've written and paste it in there. Because, yes, you are correct, and I need to probably blast that out more broadly. Yes, you should absolutely download them to review them because Canvas screws the formatting up. What do you do if the reports are all good? That's fine. The reports are all good. You will have to make a call in the rankings. You're going to have to make one of them be the best and one of them be the second best. And you're going to have to do that. But otherwise, if you've gotten 5 reports and you honestly think they all deserve 10 out of 10, then give them all 10 out of 10. There's nothing wrong with that. I don't mark on a curve. I never, ever, ever, ever mark on a curve. As you just saw from... Where'd it go? This marking rubric, right? There is no intention of creating a curve. So you can give them all gold stars. The one thing I would say, if you do that, is go back and make sure you put a bunch of comments in as to why they all deserve gold stars, because you will almost certainly get flagged as this person is trying to just patronize people. So that's fine. I will personally go and review any I flag for patronizing or being overly critical. I will go through, I will read them, I will read the reports that they read, and I'll cross-reference them and be like, yeah, Clyde just happens to have gotten 5 absolutely awesome reports that did all deserve gold stars. That's absolutely fine. But put your comments in. That's the most important thing there. Where's this form? I addressed that. It's in the as you review people, one of the questions is going to be go rank them, and you just click on the form. Wait, does Friday class have a milestone in tonight? No. If you're the Friday class, you hand your milestone in tomorrow. Sorry, Friday class. Yeah, you do it tomorrow. How do we know if our A2 is submitted to the marking pool? If you made a submission, it's in the marking pool. If you didn't, you didn't. I think that's just how it is. Is it correct without the student number? It's not correct. Again, you are allowed to mark it, but supply that feedback if you would like. Yeah, you're absolutely allowed to leave the live stream. You are more than welcome. When reviewing, the review pane doesn't show the font used or font size. Download them. Download them. Yeah, it'll make your life heaps easier if you download them, because you'll be able to just like click and it will show you a whole bunch of that stuff. Are we still doing milestones in the break? This is a good question. I'm going to talk about this a little bit next live stream. I'll probably actually talk about this quite a lot in your admin video this week, because it'll need to happen before the next live stream. Are you doing milestones in the break? No, but yes. So you will set yourself a milestone next week, and it will need to be completed by the following scheduled class week, which is technically 3 weeks later because the break's in the middle. What do? You could try and set a big ambitious milestone and just submit it 3 weeks later, but that's kind of dangerous. So my personal advice to all of you is set a milestone in your week 6 class. No, in your week 7 class. This is week 6. Next week, set a milestone that you expect to take you a week, and personally commit to getting it done within a week, or maybe a week and a half or something like that. Set a reasonable due date for it. And then set yourself another milestone to complete by the time you get back. I can't enforce this. I'm not saying this is part of the assignment. I'm just saying the milestones are there to help you do as well in your project as possible, and they're a way for you to break your project up into manageable parts and complete them. So if it was me, what I would do is come in and set myself another weekly milestone next week, and then personally commit to doing at least one more of them. I probably wouldn't try and do 2 more of them through the break. I think that's too much. I'd commit to doing 1 more of them through the break, and then coming in week 8 with that as a plan. I can't officially tell you to do more work than that. And some of you won't be able to, because you'll be working full time through the entire break, whatever. But set yourself up to be as successful as you can for test day, which is in week 12, which is not that far after the break. So you're not officially doing them during the break, is the short answer. Is it normal to have to review multiple people from our own discipline? They are completely randomly distributed. So, yes. Yes, it is normal. Statistically, there is somebody out there who got 5 reports all from their own discipline. And there will be many of you out there who didn't get any reports from your own discipline. I was going to set it all up so that you all got exactly 1 from your own discipline. But I didn't want to put more moving parts into this canvas beast that already doesn't work very well, so I thought I'd just leave it for this year. How much is A3 worth? 10%. So assessment 2, your first report's worth 10%, and the peer review is worth 10%. The milestones are worth 10% as well. Total, 2% each week, best 5 out of 6. I just realized in my A2 report I referenced the wrong tutor for the modules. Okay, that's fine. Is there any way I could fix it? No, you can't. Assessment 2 is in. So as of 23:59 and 1 second, well, actually, as of midnight on Tuesday night, all reports were distributed for peer review. No changes can be made. This is completely out of my hands at this stage. It's out of everybody's hands. They've already been issued for review. So they cannot be changed in any way because some people have already finished marking them. So they are what they are. I wouldn't be that stressed about the wrong tutor. It's bad. Like, it's poor practice. It's insulting to that tutor. But it's not the end of the world. Don't lose sleep over it, Will. You'll be fine. How much work is considered a non-attempt? If you reckon you could have done it in an hour, 1 hour, I'd call that a non-attempt. If that helps. If you're unsure, if you've got one and you're really unsure, send it to me. I'll let you know. This is tricky. There is some ambiguity there. So 1 milestone for the whole break, and then it's due 3 weeks later. Yeah, technically correct. You are absolutely correct, and that is a completely valid strat. You can do that. I have no problems with you doing that at all. Some people, many people, find it easier to set another personal milestone through the break, but yeah, absolutely. 1 milestone for the whole break and it's due 3 weeks later is absolutely officially correct. You have an idea but have a disagreement with my team members. What should I do? You could try and work with your tutor on this. But if you disagree with all of your team members, then you should get in line with your team members. We will eventually, and it's going to come next week. So this Friday, I'll release the prototyping lecture, and next Friday, I'll release the teamwork lecture. And one of the things we talk about in the teamwork lecture is that it's far, far more important for everybody to pull in the same direction than whatever direction that is. So if your entire team thinks one thing and you think something else, even if you're right, which sounds really weird, but even if you're right, your team will be more successful doing the other thing. I would bring it up in your next client meeting just to be sure. Because maybe they will say, yeah, this one person is absolutely right and everybody is absolutely wrong. Doubt it. But it's worth checking. But beyond that, it's more important that the team pulls in the same direction. How do we download our reviews? The only download button I've seen is like an overview of my given reviews. Does anybody else know how to help here? If anybody knows how to download the reviews, please let me know or chuck it in the chat. The assessment 3 questions Discord chat, because I don't know. I can't see this. I can't see this from your perspective. It won't let me, unfortunately. If we get a dodgy report, do we need to flag with me? No, you don't. If you absolutely know you've got a dodgy report, you just don't rank it. Don't put it in the Microsoft form. Still go through all the rubrics and give it terrible on absolutely every front. That's fine. I submitted the wrong file name. Does this mean I'll get no feedback? Not necessarily. It means you won't get moderated. You won't get... you can't get moderated and you can't get reviewed by me. So you may still get feedback. Don't know. There's nothing you can do about it now anyway. It's past. On Olivia's question, is there a number of pages that would be considered a non-attempt? Yeah, I said 5. Where's my thing? Oh, I closed it. Do I still have it? No, I don't. Ah, it's in here. What am I doing? Why am I being so daft? If you consider a report to have not made a genuine effort, i.e. it's less than 5 pages long, you're unable to understand it, I don't know. But I've read things that are 5 pages long that were a genuine effort before in my time. They were good. They were fine. They were just an extremely succinct writer, and they didn't do all of the sections. So I don't want to say if it's under 5 pages it's terrible. Yeah, you'll have to use a little bit of judgment there. I'm hoping that there's not that many of them actually coming up. But if they are coming up, there's normally only like 10 of them, maybe 15 of them in the entire course that are non-attempts. I suppose, though, everybody gets 5 peer reviewers, which means there's going to be 50 of them out there. So, yeah, okay, maybe there should be this many questions. My title was wrong. Will I receive 0? Maybe. I don't think so, but there's a reason the cover page says you will receive 0 if you get... The cover page says it, right? It's as clear as I can possibly make it. Where is it? Ah, that's not the cover page. Anyway, the cover page says if you do this wrong, you will get 0. So I don't know necessarily if you'll absolutely get 0 or not, but you might. I think you'll still get feedback. You should. My understanding, I've spoken to some people, and I think you will still get feedback at the very least. So that's something. If we have a team member who's contributed almost nothing to the project up to this point, should we bring it to you? Milestone assessments will help take care of that. This happens every year, so it's worth addressing. One of the reasons we do the milestone assessments is that I will then have a paper trail which says every week we went to guests group, and these 3 people had done they'd written down what they were going to do, they'd done it, they'd completed it, they had questions to ask the tutor. Great. And this 4th team member didn't fill out a couple of milestone sheets, didn't get them signed off by their tutor, or didn't complete them. We can then use that paper trail to not just affect their assessment 4 grades, but affect their final project grades as well. You are technically going to be marked as individuals in your final project. Now, it turns out 90% of you will get the same mark across the whole project. Because yes, we assessed you individually. It doesn't matter. But every now and then, there's somebody who has not contributed at all, and your tutor will know that because your tutor will mark your milestones every single week. So you shouldn't need to bring it to me. If that person is just slack, if that person is actively disrupting your group, then absolutely you should bring that to me. If they're just dead weight, we've got that covered. If they're actively pulling the other way, please flag it with me. The other thing that we use is your Discord chat. So I'll be able to go into your Discord chat and be like, hey, these 3 people are talking to each other constantly, helping each other out, making progress, and this one person hasn't posted in 3 weeks. That's a really clear indicator to me. Oh, that's super frustrating, Gabriel. I think you should be fine in that case, though. If it put a copy at the end, or like a 1 in brackets, I think you'll be fine. My understanding is my algorithm will find you anyway. I'm 99% sure you're fine. Don't stress it. I swear it says download on the right of the top panel. 3 dots next to the review purple button. Do you reckon you guys could send something? Is there a way you could send that as a screenshot that doesn't have any names in it, so that I could maybe put some stuff together for the admin video this week and be like, hey, this is how you download all of them at once. This is how you press the button. I think that would be helpful for people to know. I can't see it from my side, unfortunately, which is super annoying. If someone has gone over the page count, does that mark down the section itself or the formatting criteria? I would mark them down on both. For milestones, so all deliverables have to be guaranteed. So like making a code for the milestone task, but then not saying that the code will definitely function by the due date. Yeah, so that will be a fail. So what you need to do with your milestones is create deliverables that can be demonstrated. If it can't be demonstrated, it's a fail. So don't ever, ever, ever write, I'm going to do some code, because that can't be measured. You only ever want to write in your milestones, this is what it will do. Don't ever say, I'm going to write code. Say, my code's going to do whatever it does. Make a robot spin around in a circle. Your deliverable should be a video of the robot spinning around in a circle. That's how you do milestones. If we get a non-attempt, should we still leave comments? Yeah, you should. Don't spend heaps of time on it. Spend like 10 minutes. Just smash some comments out just to make sure that if I pick you up as a, hey, why did this person absolutely hammer this person back to the Stone Age here, I'll be able to see a whole bunch of comments in there and be like, okay, this is probably a non-attempt. Don't waste heaps of your time on it, but yeah, protect yourself in that case. For milestones, how many tasks is enough? You want to do, you've got 6 weeks to complete your projects, and you've got 4 team members, so you want to be doing 1/24th of the amount of work to complete your project. Bear in mind for your milestones, they're a minimum, not a maximum. So if you want to do 2 or 3 things this week, put one of them in for your milestone. Do it in 2 days. And then lock it in, it's done, it's perfect. And then just continue working yourself. You don't have to promise the world. Part of the point of milestones is under promise, over deliver. That's what you should be doing on every single milestone. You should be under promising and over delivering. We won't let you under promise too little, but you should be under promising, over delivering every single week. It's the safest thing for you. It makes you look the best, and it does exactly what you've acknowledged here. It helps prevent burnout and overwork. Sweet, Jade, you figured it out. All right, well, I'm going to go do some chem work. See you, Uranium. That is an appropriate title. All right, yeah, I can fix the thing. Hold on. Let me update assignments. Assessment 2 and 3, which is still in the wrong section. I can't fix it. You think this it doesn't take as long for me as it takes for you guys, but it takes a really long time for Canvas to load for me as well. We'll get marked on our final project, right? Yeah, absolutely. 30% of your grade. Do we get marked down if the project did not work on the demo date? Absolutely. So this is one of the things that we want you to be able to do. You need to make something that will work. Making something that should be amazing and you're 90% of the way there on all of the bits and it doesn't work is a terrible thing for an engineer to do. We don't want you to do that. We want you to make the thing that works and you know that it works. It's something you guys as a software are going to get. If you show non-functional features to Liam, Ross, or Cornelius, they will eat you alive. They never want to see a non-functioning feature. This is very specific to software right now. Don't do it. But this applies to everybody. There's no point having something 90% finished that doesn't work. We want to see something that had a lower goal but is 100% finished. That's always what you should be doing with practical projects. Because you're going to find that where you thought you were 90% of the way there, you were probably only actually 50% of the way there. So yeah, set a reasonable goal and clear it, and then and only then do you set a next goal. Sorry if the lag is still on my end. I apologize. What am I doing? I'm changing a due date, right? How do I do that? Submissions, automatic feedback. Deadline is currently Friday, the 12th of April. It is now Tuesday, the 16th of April. Save. Done. Can somebody check that that has updated, please? If anybody's still here. Oh, there's 100 people still here. Hey, 100 people. What was the correct paper and ink for the robot track? It's normal paper. Just normal stock standard printer paper is absolutely fine. We'll print the track on a higher GSM, a slightly thicker paper, but that's just for durability sake. And you want to use an inkjet printer. So like the normal printer you have at home. I don't know if you guys can see my printer or not. You don't want to use a laser printer. It doesn't super matter with where you guys are up to at the moment. Don't stress too much about it. But if you have the opportunity to say print it at home, that's actually a really good idea for your tracks. You should be okay here. I think you'll at least get feedback, is my understanding. But also, learn the lesson when we have requirements, it needs requirements, right? That's why the thing goes on the title page to make sure you've checked it. So, for the robot, would only mounting components onto the robot be considered too less work? Probably. No, you don't have less time to do your milestones. You have exactly the same amount of time as everybody else to do your milestones. The fact that they were due now didn't stop you completing them on Monday. You were all told you should have them in by your tutorial. That's how it is for everybody. I would say if all you're doing is putting some screws into something and that's like 10 minutes worth of work, then that's absolutely an insufficient amount of work. Are you getting 1/24th of the way towards a completed project is what you want to be able to do. So maybe if you've got the bot, you could mount a bunch of sensors and do some testing on them. Can you check that they work? Can you do some durability? Can you have your robot crash and make sure you don't break anything? Like there's a whole bunch more than you could do than just screw them on. You're looking at 2 to 4 hours of work is your goal for every milestone. PLA, in virtually all circumstances, ABS stinks. And if you want the high temperature properties of ABS, use PETG. Which also, just use PETG. Hey, Riley, thank you for checking that for me. I appreciate it. Hello, Lachlan T. And I think with that, goodbye, Lachlan T. I think we are done. I've answered all of the questions. I have no more slides for you. You guys have got a milestone to go and throw in if you haven't done it already. And other than that, you are free to go. I'm going to answer Jed's final question, and then I'm going to end the stream. Are we being marked on the quality of the deliverables? Are they deliverables for the team, or are they for the client? They're deliverables to the client for the team. And you should have defined the quality of your deliverables when you wrote them out. You're generally being assessed on did you do it. It's a yes or a no most of the time. You should try and write your deliverables so there's no ambiguity there. There is the ability for the tutor to mark on quality. They absolutely can, and they can give partial marks. So it is an option. So if you present a deliverable and it's a bit shit, and everybody knows it's a bit shit, you don't necessarily have to get 0 for it. You can still get like 1 out of 2 or something like that. Cool. Thank you, everybody. You are again highly engaged, which is super duper useful. I hope the stream was helpful to you. Go and enjoy your Thursday night. And for those of you with Friday classes, I'll actually get to see you again, which I'm super looking forward to. Thank you, everybody. Good night.